You are building your AI automation workflows in n8n, then you sit at Claude or ChatGPT and you are doing research over there. You are planning tasks, you are writing content. Every time you want some of the AI workflow to get triggered in n8n, what do? You basically jump into your n8n instance, you search for that kind of workflow wherever you have organized it, you then go ahead and execute it, and then you come back to Claude or ChatGPT and continue further research or further writing or polishing of your articles. Now, what if Claude can see all your workflows? It understands what they do, it can trigger them or execute them, fetch the result back right into that chat window that you are working in. That is exactly what n8n's instance level MCP server does it for you. You still continue to build or edit your AI workflows in n8n workspace. However, MCP clients like Claude can now read or discover your workflows in your n8n instance. They can read the descriptions of them, they can find out which workflow can be executed, and finally they can bring back the results into the same chat window. In this video itself, I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step process of how you can do this or achieve this, right from enabling the MCP at instance level of n8n to authenticating the MCP clients to exposing the right workflows and to run a real workflow from Claude chat itself. By the end of this video, your AI chats will look like you have a remote control to all your AI workflows in n8n. First, very quick language check. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. Think of it as a common language that lets Claude or any other MCP aware tools to communicate with external services like weather data or external databases or even n8n in this case. n8n already had a MCP server trigger node before. You can drop that node in any of the workflow and that workflow can act as a tool for any kind of MCP client. The new feature works at the instance level. You now have a built-in MCP server for your n8n instance. You create one connection from your MCP client to your n8n instance and boom, all your workflows which are there, which you have exposed, that we'll see later in the video, are now visible via that link to your MCP client. If you are still confused, picture it like this. Your n8n instance is a workshop full of tools and machines. Your n8n workflows are more like machines. One of them sends an email, the other one saves or synchronizes data with your Notion database, the other one does a lead enrichment job for you. On the other hand, an MCP client like Claude Desktop is more like a smart assistant for you who can walk into that workshop and ask about which tools or machines are available for me to access. The new MCP server at instance level is the secure door to this workshop. You are the one who is deciding whether to open that door or not. You are the one who is deciding which machines are accessible through that door, and you are the one who decide which assistants get the key to it. With that picture in mind, let's go to the screen share and configure your n8n instance MCP server. Alright, I'm logged into the cloud instance of my n8n workspace, and you can see at the bottom left corner there is this DS which is initials to my name. If I click on it, there is a setting. I click on it, and right at the bottom left of the settings page tree, you would see a new option called MCP Access. If you click on it, over here you can see that it says enable MCP access to this instance. So you need to toggle on this button. At the bottom there is a note as well. Let MCP clients like Claude, Lovable and other AI tools discover and execute your n8n workflows. You can click on this link to know more about it. But what we are going to do is I'm going to click on this toggle button. It is going to enable the MCP access. So now the MCP access for my instance is enabled, and you see over here there are a couple of things. One is how to connect to this instance, that is my instance of n8n. You can see there are two options. One is OAuth, the other one is access token. We'll come back to it. The next thing that is over here is connected OAuth clients. So once you start connecting your MCP clients, you will see all the list of those clients over here so that you can remove access, edit access for them. Right at the bottom, you are going to see the list of all the workflows that are available for MCP through this instance of my n8n. So once we are going to enable the workflows, all the list would be available over here. But the first thing that you have to do was enable the MCP access. Now that we have enabled the MCP access to our n8n instance, this is more like creating the door where others can enter, but you have not provided the authentication mechanism, which is more like locks and keys to this door. And that's where the second step comes into play, where we are going to learn how to connect this MCP instance to our MCP client. So for that, we are going to stick to this how to connect part of it, and you can see OAuth is there, access token is there. We'll go there one by one. So if we look at just the OAuth, it says enable workflow access in at least one workflow via its settings. So I'm going to go back in the next step in order to do that. But first, let me quickly configure my Claude Desktop. So for that, we are going to refer to the how to connect portion of this MCP access page. Here you can see the first step is enable workflow access in at least one workflow via its settings. Although it says first step, but you can do it later. We are going to do it later. First, we are going to configure our Claude Desktop client. So for that, you can see there is this server URL setting. At the end of it, you can see a copy button is there. I'm going to click it. Now we have the URL copied. Let's go to the Claude Desktop. So I have opened up the Claude Desktop. At the Claude Desktop, you would see at the bottom over here your name. You can click on it and the settings will start showing. You will click on the settings, and the settings you would have this connectors over here. Let's come to the connector, and you can see that I have few MCP servers already installed and few connections already established. You may not have that. Right at the bottom, you see this add custom connector. You are going to click this and it is going to ask for a name. Let's name it as n8n MCP instance GenAI Unplugged. And over here, I'm going to paste the remote URL that we copied. So this is the remote URL that we copied. So I'm going to add. So this is going to add it. So this is open because it is in beta. There is probably a bug over here. So I'm going to click on cancel. Now when I come back, you can see right at the bottom, I can see n8n MCP instance GAUI, which is showing disconnected. I'm going to click on this connect and it is going to open up the authorization window, which we have to authorize, so that we can provide the keys to the lock that we have on the door of our MCP instance. And as you see over here, it says Claude wants to access your n8n instance. This will allow Claude to perform following action: get a list of workflows, get details of specific workflows, and execute workflows on your behalf. It is saying clearly that it is not going to help you create workflows or edit workflows, but these three actions are allowed. So I'm going to click on allow, and you would see a success message over here. You can open the Claude from here, and now I'm going to see a refresh list, and you can see that now n8n MCP instance GAUI is connected, and I can also configure it from here. Again, if I have to install it, I can install it over here. You can see there is this read only tools. It says needs approval. I can always say always allow. So I'm going to say always allow. In the write or delete tools, you can see there is one tool which is execute workflow, and it is saying always allow, needs approval, or blocked. So I'm going to stick to needs approval so that Claude at least asks me before executing the workflow in my n8n instance. So I'll keep that setting, but for read only, I have enabled always allow over here. So now our MCP server is configured at GenAI Unplugged, and our MCP client, which is Claude Desktop in this case. You may have another MCP aware client such as Lovable or Codex CLI or even Claude Code. You can configure them as well following the instructions in the link that I have provided. So far we have the workshop, which was our n8n instance. We created a door so that others can enter into it in the first step. Now we have provided locks and keys for that door. What we have to do next? We have to provide the machines which are available in that particular workshop that we have. So for that, I'm going to go back to our n8n instance. So let's go back to the n8n instance. Now I'm going to click on this close. So this is the n8n instance. You can see it is asking for enable workflow access in at least one workflow. So in order to do that, there are two ways of it. So I'm going to go back. So here I am in the personal project of my n8n instance. Let's go to this folder, and over here there is only one workflow available. Now, like I said, there are two ways of enabling access of MCP on each workflow, which is our machines in our analogy. So I'm going to click on this three dots, and you can see right at the bottom there is this enable MCP access. Now it is coming as disabled. Why? Because I have not enabled or I have not put this workflow into production. That is a primary requirement, that any workflow that you want to enable access for MCP, first it must be active, it must be productionized. So in order to do that, you can see this inactive button over here. I'm going to click on this active. So now it has become active. So now if I click on this, you can see enable MCP access is enabled over here. And the second condition that must be met for any workflow to be exposed via MCP is it must have one of these following trigger nodes, which is one is chat trigger node, other one is schedule trigger node, third one is webhook trigger node, and fourth one is form trigger node. If you do not have any of these 4 triggers in your workflow, then the MCP access cannot be enabled. I'm going to show you the second way of doing it. If I click on this, it is going to enter me into this workflow. By the way, if you subscribe to my Substack, you can get a copy of this email assistant, which is smart email triage assistant, that can basically categorize emails for you, that can triage the unread emails and send out a quick summary. If you want to get a copy of it, go to my Substack, link is in the description of the video. Now let's look at the second way of configuring the MCP access for a particular workflow. You can see the 3 dots over here. You can access the menu. So over here you can see the settings. I'm going to click on it, and right at the bottom you see available in MCP. Make this workflow visible to AI agents through n8n MCP. Now I am going to click it over here and I'm going to save it. So this is how you have made at least one machine available for your AI agent in your workshop. You have provided the keys and the access to the lock of the door that we created. Now let's quickly configure a couple of other workflows as well, and then let's come back to Claude Client and see it in action. Let's go back to the personal project. Maybe like let's open something else, or maybe let's say I already have access to this my workflow 4. I'm going to use that. Let's come back, and now I'm going to use Santa's fun game. I'm going to enable the access from over here. So I have 2 workflows which are active in my n8n instance. I have enabled the access for them. You can see over here available in MCP icon is also coming on this particular screen. The second important thing that we have to do with these workflows is add some sort of description so that it can be discovered or searched by any type of MCP client. So I'm going to quickly go into this, and over here right next to this add tag you would see edit workflow description. I'm going to use that. And you can see that to help MCP clients understand when to use this workflow, add a short workflow description that describes what it does. So I'm going to mention this workflow. So I just wrote a description of this particular workflow where this is a fun Christmas game where you can enter your name and it will tell you whether you have been nice or naughty in 2025. You can play this fun game with any of your friends and family. So I'm going to click on save. So this has saved the description. Let's go back and edit the description for the second workflow as well. So that was over here. I'm going to click on this. And now I'm going to click on the edit description of this workflow. So here I'm going to copy paste what this workflow is doing. This is a little more complex workflow. So I've already copied the description of it. Let me go back and get it. So I'm going to paste the description over here. This n8n workflow triages emails, draft replies, and sends you a daily digest so you can respond faster without living in Gmail. So let's save this. So now our workflows are also ready. So that means our external AI assistants, which we have authorized in order to come to our workshop and access these machines, are all ready to communicate with each other. But before I go to my Claude Desktop, I want to show you the second way of connecting any type of MCP client. So for that, I'm going to click on my profile icon. I'm going to click on settings. So over here, I go back to the MCP access, and now on the OAuth tab of this connection screen, you can see Claude is available as a client which is connected to our n8n instance, and we just did that. Over here, you can hover over or click on this 3 dots and you can revoke the access. So with one click, you can revoke the access to your workshop for any of the external clients or smart assistant. Right at the bottom, you can see available workflows. So we enable 2 workflows. So you can see both of them. You can see short description of them. This description is going to be used by the MCP client to discover and interact with these workflows. Now let's quickly see the access token mechanism as well. If I click on the access token, you can see enable workflow access, which we have already done. You can see the available workflows are available over here. You see the server URL. So I'm going to copy this server URL. So I'm going to click on this icon to copy this. So now this has been copied. You can copy paste by selecting as well. Now I'll save it in my notepad. So I have saved that. So you can see the access token is available over here. It is coming redacted over here because we have already opened this screen once and I went back and now I coming back. So first time you open this screen, then only this particular access token will be available. If you did the same mistake and lost track of it, then what you can do is you can click on this generate new token. So this token that we already have will already be revoked. So that means if you have used an access token anywhere in any of the MCP client to configure earlier, so that token would get revoked and new token would be generated. So that means all those clients you need to go and update. So I'm going to click on this regenerate. So this is going to regenerate the token, and I'm going to click on this copy. So this is the first time, that's the only time it is going to be available to you. So you can see, make sure to copy your access token. You won't be able to see this copy it again. So I'm going to refresh this. So I go back to the access token, and now you can see again the redacted version of the access token, but this time I had already copied it. So I'm going to paste it in my notepad. So these are the two things that you would need in order to configure your any MCP client. But at the bottom you see this gray bar, or use the following code in your mcp.json file. So if I click on it, you can see that there is a JSON template also available. I'm going to copy this, paste it over here in my notepad. I have the URL, and you can see that URL is already configured. So I don't need to use the URL again. So I'm going to delete this. So this is the token that we had. So I'm going to copy this token. So don't double click it, because you can see that if I'm double clicking it, it is also adding some sort of \n or new line over here. So I'm going to just copy it from here. And then over here where it says authorization bearer, your access token here, I'm just going to paste it. So this has prepared the MCP server configurations that any of the MCP aware clients expect us to have. So in order to show you that, if I go back to my Claude Desktop, over here I'll go back to the settings again. So let's go to the settings. Now at the bottom you see this developer, you click on this. So this is only available in desktop app, right? So this developer is here. You can see there are a couple of MCP servers already configured. If you are coming here for the first time, you are not going to see these two over here. You are going to see a blank screen with the edit config button over here. So I'm going to click on this edit config, and it is going to take me to the file which is available in Claude Desktop as a JSON file, which is the configuration file for MCP server. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to open it with my notepad editor. So now you can see that I have a couple of MCP servers configured over here. So this is the MCP server node at the top, and you can see one is this n8n MCP. The other one I have is note reader. We already had copied the entire JSON that we had from the other file. So I'm going to click on new, and then I'm going to paste it over here. And now you can see that over here as well, I have MCP server. So if I copy this entirely and I paste it at the bottom, so this is not going to work. So in case you already have some MCP servers configured, you cannot just copy paste the file that the documentation has provided. So in order to do that, what you have to do is you have to just copy the MCP server. So I'm going to copy this. So this is the setting that I have to copy or cut. So I'm going to cut that. So now this is leaving this only. So I'm going to just delete this. Be very careful, otherwise the settings will go corrupted and your MCP client won't load. Over here you have to add it. So I'm going to click on comma and then enter, and then I'm going to paste it. So that means now I'll have 3 MCP servers available for my Claude Desktop client. So I'm going to save this. If you do not have any kind of MCP servers, this is how it will look like. So if I cut this, so this is how it is going to look like, your configured JSON file of Claude Desktop client. But for me, there were already a couple of MCP servers installed. So I'm going to just undo it. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to exit out of it. And now if I go back to the Claude Desktop, you cannot see it over here because we have to restart Claude Desktop. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to exit it totally out of it. So I'm going to quit it. And now I'm going to restart the Claude again. So it is restarting. So now it has been restarted. Now let's go back again to the settings. Let's go back to the developer, and on this screen you will start seeing the MCP server that you have configured. We are not seeing the local MCP server because we have connected the n8n instance via the connector. So if I go back to the connectors over here, you can see that n8n MCP instance GUI is already configured over here. That's why you are not seeing the duplicate entry. So I'm going to go back to my edit config file. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to remove this particular server from here. Let's select this and let's delete this. Let's save it. Now let's exit the Claude again, and let's come back to the Claude. So this is a new chat window over here. Here you can see search and tools. If I click on it, you would see right at the bottom there is this MCP server already configured for us, n8n MCP instance GUI. This is coming via the connector. This is not coming via the JSON file, but this way I showed you how you can connect any type of MCP client using the access token mechanism as well. All right, now comes the fun part where we are going to use our Claude Desktop and chat with the workflows which are there in our n8n instance. So in order to do that, let's open up a new conversation with our Claude Desktop. So you can see that new chat has been opened. So it's just to make sure that everything is working. So you can see n8n MCP instance GUI is already enabled for this particular chat. You can enable, disable this MCP server access at the chat or conversation level or at the project level as well. So this has access to our instance. So I'm going to ask it list all the. So now it is searching for the workflows which are there. And you can see that it has found that there are two workflows configured, one with this ID, the other one is with this ID. Now I can say I want to play a fun game today with my family. Let's see what it says. Right, the Santa fun game workflow is over there for you. It is ready. You can see that it is explaining how I can play this game with them. So it is still showing that it is using a form trigger and it cannot access it, but let's try it. No, I want you to execute my workflow. At least try it, and we will start with my name, Dheeraj. Right now it is executing the workflow. And you can see Dheeraj has been nice, finally learned how to mute himself on Zoom calls most of the time. The workflow executed successfully. Want to try more family members? Let's do that for my wife. All right, so another fun fact about my wife. Now let's stop playing this game. Now let's stop playing for a bit. It seems that you can fetch or provide the daily summary of my emails. Now you can see that as soon as I ask it, you can provide daily summary digest for my emails. It is saying that I can execute the workflow which is like smart email trash daily digest workflow for you. And it is going to pull unread emails, categorize them, draft replies, send email digest to a Telegram message. So let's go ahead and see that. So this workflow runs automatically at 8 a.m. but I can trigger it manually now. It doesn't need any inputs, just execute it. So want me to run it? I'm just saying to yes. Let's see what happens. Let me open my thing as well. So this is like from yesterday. So it is executing. Let's see what it is doing. So it has executed the workflow. And you can see over here today, 8:58 a.m. It has executed and sent me a summary of my email digest. So just like that, now it is compacting the conversation over here. It is going to tell me what it did. However, it executed the workflow successfully. And you can see that this is today's email digest that I have got on my Telegram message. Important things that you should keep in mind are it does not let Claude or other MCP clients to author or edit or create workflows in your n8n instance. This authoring still happens in your n8n workspace. It does not expose all the workflows to the client. Only the workflows that you are exposing explicitly will be available to any kind of MCP client. And finally, there is no list that you can expose this workflow to this particular MCP client and this workflow to this particular MCP client. All the workflows that you are going to explicitly expose will be accessible to all the MCP clients that are connected to your MCP server instance. Now let's quickly talk about what is happening inside or under the hood of this entire connection that has been established. Well, on the n8n side, nothing unusual is happening. It is usually the way n8n works. As soon as any MCP client triggers any sort of workflow execution, everything stays the same. You can see the execution logs, you can debug the errors, you can inspect the data that has been inputted, everything that you usually do with your n8n workflows. Once the execution is completed, it sends the data back to the client so that the client can process the data and show it to the user. Because the MCP client like Claude and others are going to go through the entire content of your workflow and try to understand the metadata which is available over here and then try to process it. So that ways you need to configure your workflow in a more elaborative or more human readable manner so that these clients can also use that information. One thing you need to note is that there is a timeout, 5-minute timeout. If your workflow is not able to complete in 5 minutes, irrespective of the timeout that you have configured for your n8n workflow, in that case, the conversation that is happening between MCP client and your workflow is going to time out and it is going to say failed execution. There are a few other limitations that are worth noting. One of them being that if you have multiple triggers configured in your workflow, it is going to pick the first one that it is picking and then execute the workflow with that. Second one is if your workflow relies on human interaction, you have human in the loop which is approving, disapproving requests, and the workflow is continuing further. In those cases, you may see some erroneous results or it may not be supported altogether at all. Third one is binary data is not supported. These clients or MCP clients cannot post files onto your workflow and expect them to process those binary files yet. Based on these constraints or limitations, what I will suggest you is that number one, you should create some MCP specific workflows which are pretty much simple in nature. They are more conversation friendly. They require text input, text output, or they can do some sort of async job behind the scenes for you so that you don't need to go to the n8n interface and execute a workflow or wait for it to execute. Just like you saw in this example, I was having a conversation and in the middle I just thought I don't want to play a game. I just want to go and check out what all important emails are there for me. The second thing that you should do with your workflows is give them good names, give them good descriptions so that these MCP clients can understand what is happening and can load or trigger the workflow based on the context or information that you have given to them. And third one, like I said, avoid any sort of interactive steps or human in the loop steps. If you have such workflows, use them separately. Don't configure them as MCP accessed workflow because they are not going to behave as per the expectation that you may have. So that's it for this video. I wanted to explain this new and upcoming MCP access at instance level n8n feature in detail. I want to know from you which is the first workflow that you are going to configure or enable access for MCP. If this video helped you and you think that this video will help your other friends as well, do share it, do like it, do subscribe to my channel for more n8n and AI automation content.